I see the Belt and Road Initiative as part of a connectivity project for Asia, which is good, which is very much useful and needed. So if we can improve physical connectivity within Asia, if we can improve connectivity between the countries and also of course within the countries, but if we can improve connectivity between the countries, it will enhance regional cooperation, it will improve greater trade, it will make it easier for people to move from one country to another. So this is all good. And as you know, I've been very involved with the ADB's regional cooperation programs. One of them is the Greater Mekong sub-region, where lots of economic corridors were proposed, supported and built by ADB's support and others. And China always was a very important part of the Greater Mekong sub-region. So I think China's Belt Road Initiative is a very welcome step in that direction, which will enhance connectivity, which will therefore be good for Asia and Asia's regional integration. This is really a very important question you have raised. It is about governance and it is about implementation. So I think before the projects are actually implemented, the parties involved, be it public sector or private sector, be it Chinese companies or other companies in other countries, I think should have a very, very clear understanding of what are the mutual obligations to make sure that if a company is investing in a project in country A or country B, it is very clear what are the dispute resolution mechanisms, which means if there is a problem, how will they be resolved? You shouldn't try to think of a mechanism when there is a problem. You should do that before. So if there is a problem, who will you go to for this resolution? Will you go to a court? Will you go for arbitration? If you go for court, where will you go to court? Will you go to a court in China? Will you go to a court in that host country? Will you go to London for international arbitration? So that is one. The entire contractual obligations, including dispute resolution mechanism, must be very clearly understood. The AIIB, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, its mandate is essentially to promote infrastructure development in Asia. And there is a huge demand for infrastructure in Asia. The Asian Development Bank, ADB, did a study recently, and they talked about roughly $1.7 trillion a year for the next 15, 20 years for infrastructure in Asia. So that's a huge, huge number. That amount cannot be financed by only one or even two institutions. Therefore, AIIB, in partnership with ADB, World Bank and others, I think can and should play a very important role. So AIIB's role, I think, is going to be a very important one in infrastructure financing in Asia. And the contributions, I think, will be important when it is in partnership with the Asian Development Bank, for example. The ADB has a long experience in Asia. AIIB is a new multilateral organization, but it can really add value by bringing in additional resources which are needed in Asia. And I think it will be very good for Asia that AIIB, ADB, World Bank, other organizations can and will work in partnership. See, the demand for infrastructure in Asia is in virtually every areas of infrastructure, roads, railways, ports, telecommunication, airports, etc. Asia at the moment, as I said, has a large infrastructure deficit. Now, China, of course, has invested very heavily in infrastructure for the last 30 years, almost 10% of GDP. So therefore, China's infrastructure is very good. But there are many other countries which do not have such good infrastructure. So I think it will be very useful and important for China through AIIB, through its other partners, supports Asian infrastructure development. Then AIIB will be doing that. So I would see AIIB getting involved in the various sectors I mentioned, in building parts of the Asian highway, which is now incomplete, in supporting the Asian railway network. And of course, then there is the Belt Road Initiative that China is sort of very keen on. And I think that will be something that would be very useful for AIIB to support. So the key thing is develop infrastructure, improve connectivity in Asia, but do it in a way which meets the aspirations and the needs of the countries involved.